Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. So let's get started with today's show. Now, one of the things that I see often in author groups or forums are posts from authors who are very interested in getting their books in libraries. Now, I'm going to go on kind of a rant about how that is really a losing effort, especially for self-published books. Now, let me rewind a bit. I am not anti-library, even though I'm going to sound like it. When I was a kid, my favorite days were rainy days, and at recess time, they would say, we just can't let you outside, but you can go to the library if you want. I'm like, yes. And then when I was in high school, I was in the library club, which helped maintain the library, worked with the students and that sort of thing. So I'm not anti-library, sort of. But I have to wonder, why these authors are so concerned about it as self-published authors. What do they hope to get from that? You have to remember that a library will only buy one copy of your book, probably at most. And then that book will be checked out maybe hundreds of times. So the sale is not that great. And you could spend a lot of time trying to get a sale to a library because there are millions of self-published books out there, and they're not looking for your book because most self-published books aren't, like big bestseller type books that get on the New York Times bestseller list and everybody wants to read them. So they're not looking for your book. Now, there are some libraries that will support a local author, and they are willing to display your book as here's one of our local authors, but they're not going to do that forever. After they've done whatever they feel is appropriate to help a local author, they will put the book on the shelf. Unless there's some active promotion where you're saying, hey, go get my book from the library, which I don't really understand that. I would want to send people to go and buy my book. But, you'd have to do some active promotion to get a free read of your book. Okay, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And you have to remember that people go to the library to borrow books. Now, borrowing is not buying. This should be obvious. However, I just don't understand that authors flip some sort of switch and then they get all excited that, oh, if they see the book in the library or they read the book, they're going to want to buy a copy of it. Let me give you a little example. So I have a dear friend of mine. She's older than me, and she, runs a book club, and, she's just really active, avid reader. And, I've tried to get her to, I try and give her Kindle books or Amazon gift cards and things, and it's like, oh, that's nice, but I'm going to the library. I'm like, okay. And she said, well, yeah, I can borrow all the books for free. So I have to wonder what is so enchanting about the library that would even cause an entrepreneurial self-published author to pursue it. Now, I think what happens is that these authors have some nostalgic feelings for the library. when they were kids, maybe they did, a summer reading program or an after school program, or their parents would bring them there on the weekends for story time. And so they have a lot of like positive, warm, fuzzy feelings about the library. And as adults, they may be using the library themselves. And so they would like to walk into the library and see their book featured or on the shelves. So it just doesn't do any good. Now, if you've signed up for expanded distribution through Kindle Direct Publishing, a library can buy it if they want. But here's the other thing about libraries, and you may not even make that one sale to a library. First of all, most libraries, I suppose there is some variation, but particularly here in the United States, the libraries are public libraries. That means that they are publicly funded. So they have government budgets to deal with. And they also have government buying requirements. So they're not going to buy directly from you. They probably have some sort of distribution channel that they buy through regularly. And so they're not on the lookout again for your book. So, okay, I know this is a bit of a rant, and I'm sorry, because I really do think libraries are important, and I think they're a valuable service to the community. But I had to laugh. I was talking or having some online chat with an author friend of mine, and he's kind of the same mindset as me, but his wife isn't. And his wife says, well, hey, why don't you try and get your book into our local library, He said, I wouldn't even waste the gas to drive to the library to put it there. And one of the things that he also mentioned is that he would have to donate it to the library. And yeah, sometimes if you have a local library that you're particularly fond of or that you have some involvement with, they might want to help you, but they may ask for you to donate the book. And also you have to remember that libraries have limited shelf space, just like bookstores. I'm not even going to go down the road of my bookstore rant. But libraries have even more limited shelf space. So they're not going to fill it with a bunch of self-published books. They're only going to put books on the shelves that are in hot demand. So please, people, don't get nostalgic about libraries. Understand that they are a valuable community service, but they are not an ideal venue for you to promote your self-publishing efforts. So let's put that into perspective. Now, I hope you found that helpful, and if you did, please subscribe to The Heidi Thorne Show, rate and review as well on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, and Podbean. And if you like the video version better, or you just like to listen to the podcast on YouTube, you just have to subscribe to my Heidi Thorne YouTube channel and make sure you turn on the notification bell in settings so that you do get alerts when a new video is available. Now, my self-published books are very likely not in your library, and I don't really care because I want you to find them where I am offering them, and that is on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. All you have to do is look for my Heidi Thorne author page, and all my books that are available there are noted. Now, I'd appreciate it if you would share the Heidi Thorne Show or my books or whatever on social media. And if you'd like to connect with me, my website is very simply HeidiThorne.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the next episode. And in the meantime, have a great day.